Hello, Godzilla and monster fans. Welcome to my summer special, where I'll be discussing the Godzilla franchise. You guys didn't pick which film franchise you wanted me to cover for this summer, so I chose myself, and I ended up with Godzilla. Now, Godzilla is one of the longest running franchises that we have today. There's so many Japanese and American films that I'm not even sure if I'll be able to cover the whole franchise in one summer, but I'll try my best. So yeah, I'll be reviewing every Japanese and American, any official Godzilla movie that's part of the franchise. And so, starting off with the 2020 summer special is the original Godzilla. Last year I did a summer special for 2019, and I did the X-Men franchise, and while I started on the second movie, this is different. I have not reviewed a Godzilla movie yet on this channel, so this summer special is a good chance to tackle that. So yes, let's dive into the original Godzilla from 1954, and I'll be discussing the Japanese version. I'm not discussing the American version because it's a re-edit, and I've heard not really great things about it, and it's just the one that's easiest to find. You can literally go online and watch the Japanese version a lot more easier. It's such a hassle to go to the American one, and it kind of isn't honoring the original movie. I want to get the full taste. And it doesn't. I watched the Japanese version with the English subtitles, but it wasn't as bad because, although you have to read, what the characters are saying, it's not too bad. Just see it, because you can just glance at it, get an idea of what they're saying, and then you know what's going on. So when it comes to Godzilla movies, humans aren't really a big focus. In fact, when I'm going to be reviewing Godzilla movies, I'll mostly be focusing on the monsters. But there are exceptions. There are movies that actually differentiate in the Godzilla franchise that give us likable human characters. And this original one actually does have three or four characters that I think are fine. But that's about it. You won't see it much in the Godzilla franchise, but the main focus will be the monster. But obviously, I just wanted to tell you guys that because it's going to be different than other franchises that I review. But anyway, let's begin talking about the original Godzilla and my thoughts on it and whether I think it's a good film and stands on its own. It's a film from the 50s, and it started a really good franchise, so how good is it? Everyone says it's one of the best monster movies ever, but do I agree with that opinion? Well, let's talk about it and find out whether I agree or not. So without further ado, let's get started. So the original Godzilla's plot is this. A fire-breathing monster terrorizes Japan after they drop the atomic bombs. The atomic bomb awakens it from its sleep. That's basically it. So it's basically a monster attacking Japan due to the fact of their using nuclear bombs to awake it from its sleep and create the monster. Now, I'm going to start by talking about the characters, because I just have to, because I can't honestly not just talk about Godzilla only, because Godzilla is the only monster in this movie, and like I said, unlike the other films, this film actually gives us characters that I can actually talk about and actually say that I did not hate, and they were actually likable and entertaining. So, to start off, there's Ogata, who is Emiko's lover. He, I believe, is, and he's not a terribly he's a very good supporter for Emiko, but he doesn't have much character, beyond helping her and her father out with the Godzilla issue. And he doesn't provide much character, I would say. He doesn't do much in the film. I mean, he just cares about, the other characters and, looks out for their well-being, but he's not really, there's nothing really big, groundbreaking about his character that makes him stand out. There's no, at least not from what I saw. I mean, all he did was pretty much just be there for Emiko and, her and her father and her family during this time of crisis. And he just tried his best to help out. Emiko is a very likable female protagonist, and actually, I wasn't annoyed by her. This is something that most Godzilla movies tend to fucking fall flat on, but this one does not fall flat on. Actually, Emiko's a very nice and respectful girl. She's not annoying. She doesn't try to be, she doesn't, do stupid shit or try to be, this tough woman. She cares about the people around her and always tries to do the right thing and tries to convince Serizawa, her and Ogata, to use the oxygen destroyer to defeat Godzilla. And also to, and she tries earlier on in the film to try to, get him to open up, because Serizawa, honestly, he's very inclusive. He doesn't really like to talk about, he doesn't really talk about much. He likes to keep to himself, and mainly that's due to the scarring he had during World War II. And Serizawa is possibly my favorite character of this film. I like his story, and I think he's a fantastic character, and I actually understand his motivations. He's a scientist that does his research, but he keeps it to himself because he doesn't want to create more problems in the world. He doesn't want to create more atomic weapons that militaries can use against each other and just make humanity worse. And that's basically what the oxygen destroyer is. It's another form of a weapon. So if he knows that if he were to tell anyone besides Emiko and Ogata, which he shows Emiko first, and then Emiko later, after seeing all the death and destruction Godzilla fucking puts on the whole city of Tokyo, she tells him about what she saw from him when he gave her a demonstration of the oxygen destroyer, and it makes sense why she'd do that, because she's respectful, but she realized that it might be the only chance they had at defeating Godzilla. And he was a person who was in the war. He had he has scarring. He has an eye patch on one of his eyes. He's very, like I said, he's inclusive. He keeps to himself because he doesn't want his research to be used in a bad way. So he has to really be convinced to fucking fight, to use his oxygen destroyer to kill Godzilla. And it's only after that he sees all the aftermath of the fucking chaos that Godzilla puts on the city that he realizes that he will use it, but it's going to be the one and only time he will use it, and he will make sure at all costs that the oxygen destroyer never gets recreated. And I find him an honorable person. You understand why he doesn't want to do this, why he doesn't want to use the oxygen destroyer, and you also understand why he wants to make sure that that he destroys any evidence of it. First, he burns all the paperwork of it, and while he knows that's the basic thing to do, he still has the information of it, and his death at the end of the scene, at the end of the movie, is actually one of the most impactful deaths ever. It was really emotional when Serizawa actually gave up his life, but you knew why he did it. He knew that if he didn't kill himself, people would have forced him to use his weapon and recreate another oxygen destroyer. So he was willing to give up his life in order to make sure the world didn't go back into chaos. And it's noble. He's a very likable character, and honestly, Dr. Serizawa is one of the reasons I like this movie. And Emiko and Ogata are fine too, but they don't have defying stories like Serizawa does, or, Emiko's father does. But Emiko's father, I think is Professor Yamate or something like that. He's against killing Godzilla and wants to study him, and at the end, I don't know if he has a change of heart and was still wanted him to be killed. But I think after the chaos and destruction, he probably would know that Godzilla should be killed. But he knows that Serizawa sacrificed, because he knows something like this should never be created again. There should be no other monsters like Godzilla that gets recreated. But I think Serizawa is the most developed character in this movie, and I think his character is the most entertaining. I like his story, and I like everything about him. His death at the end of the fucking movie is one of the most, like I said, it's one of the most emotional scenes to me, and I think that this is probably my favorite scene of Serizawa. Besides him seeing the aftermath, of the chaos, where the kids are singing on the television at the funeral of everyone's death. I like his death scene the most, and it's really impactful and hits home, and it's really sad when you see this likable, scientist give up his life for a very noble cause. And when you know all the shit he went through, you really feel for him. But he only wants the best for everyone, and that's a really satisfying way for him to die. It was the best way to end his story, and it's one of the best scenes, in my opinion, for both Serizawa and Godzilla's death.
まだ大成功だ。幸福に暮らせよ。さよなら。さよなら。千田さん、おい、引き上げろ。千田さん。
So now we come to the other last part of the movie, which I haven't talked about, is the king of the monsters himself, Godzilla. Godzilla doesn't have another monster to fight like in most movies, so in this one he's solo and he fights against the military. Now, actually, you would think this is pretty boring, but in the original it's actually done well. Why? Well, because not only is the music so awesome, this music is incredible. Every time, the music for whenever the army go into battle with Godzilla is one of the best music scores I've ever heard. It's so fun to listen to the soundtrack. They really did a great job with the music and setting the mood whenever they did it. This movie has a great soundtrack. It has great music in it. It gets me excited and pumped when Godzilla and the army face off against each other, and that's not usually something you would get invested in. But not only is that what makes it good, but the fact is that this original one, it does something it symbolizes basically the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, because this was not too long after those bombings, and Japan was recovering that, and they were the only ones to go through that hell. So it was a good symbolization. Godzilla is a good representation of what that was like for Japan, what all that destruction and chaos and death. And it's very serious. It's all the death and violence. There's like so many scenes of people fucking dying, getting stepped on, roasted by Godzilla's atomic breath. There's even one scene where a lady says that they'll soon be with her father to her kids before Godzilla, kills her and her kids. It's a very emotional scene. This is not like many Godzilla movies. This is serious. Because this one was created with the heart that of what Japan was going through. It symbolized their situation, and that's a very impactful message, and why this movie is so amazing. Why it's held as one of the best monster movies, in my opinion. Godzilla is just amazing in how all the death and destruction he causes, and the fact that he has no regard for human life. He's a monster. Humans never treated him any better, so why should he treat them any different than they treat him? He's very great. I think even the black and white, how the film is black and white, because it's a 50s film, it helps, create a dark atmosphere, even in the daytime. It really hammers home the gritty style that they were going for this film. This is a very serious Godzilla film, and it's very entertaining and has a very impactful message about what Japan was like during those times, and it was very interesting to see that. Now, when it comes to Godzilla, since he's not really fighting against other monsters, there are lots of scenes of him being awesome. But this first film actually teases his appearance. You don't see Godzilla until, I think, the 20-something minute mark, after like 20 minutes of film. Basically, you don't know what's going on in the beginning of the film. You just assume something's happening. Godzilla's name is mentioned. It's teased at, that some kind of creature is there. But when Godzilla is revealed behind that, on top of that mountain, and does his famous roar, it's a great introduction and a good setup to his character, and it's probably the scene that for Godzilla that I can honestly pick out from this film. But overall, there's not much to really say about this film. Unlike other film franchises, Godzilla's just a monster franchise, so it's really not. I really can't say any more for it. Godzilla's a fantastic monster. The story is entertaining. I'm not bored by the human stuff. The humans are actually engaging. They're trying to deal with this situation because they never had dealt with it before, and I think it's because it's just the way that this movie goes about it. They've never really recaptured it because of the time period it was and created in. It's a nice timepiece and shows you what Japan was like, and I highly recommend the Japanese version with the English subtitles. It's not hard to find, and and honestly, that's what I would say for most Godzilla films, is just watch the Japanese version, either in English subbed, or if there's a dub version, that's fine. But I would steer clear from American re-edits because they mostly tend to ruin the movie. Now, I haven't seen the American version of the original Godzilla film, but I honestly have no intention to, because it's really the same film, but just an American actor, Raymond Burr, Steve Martin, added into the film. I mean, if you're curious, I guess you can go see it, but I would recommend just watching the Japanese version first if you haven't seen the Godzilla film. But yes, the music really sets the scene. It gets me pumped every time that the fucking army go right into Godzilla. Or the soundtrack is so great in this film. Godzilla is awesome, and and the message behind what he symbolizes is really impactful. The characters are very likable and don't annoy the crap out of me. They really do a great job. They're very entertaining to watch, and that's really all I can say about the original Godzilla. There's not really much I can say about this film because it's a short film. But it's a good one. So let's get into my final verdict of what I think about the original 1954 Godzilla. Well, I'm going to give the original 1954 Godzilla 5 stars out of 5. I give it 5 out of 5 because there was nothing that I disliked about it. The humans were great, the monster stuff was great, the soundtrack and music was fantastic. The setting was good. For a 1954 film, this is a classic and a must-see Godzilla movie, a must-see monster movie if you're a monster fan. So any people that haven't seen Godzilla and are curious, or if you I highly recommend this film. It's a good monster movie and probably the best Godzilla movie. Possibly. We haven't gone through the rest of the franchise, but I would say it's my go-to Godzilla movie. It's a good film to just sit back and relax, and if you want to enjoy a good story. It does a lot of things different than other Godzilla movies, but I would recommend this film. But like I said, do the Japanese version first, and then if you're curious about the American version, knock yourself out. But I have no interest in reviewing that, so don't expect me to do like some second review of the American version. No, I'm just reviewing the Japanese version because this is the one that I, watch, and it's obviously the superior version. And yeah, that's my thoughts on the original Godzilla. So if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it. And comment down below what you think of the original Godzilla, and if you've seen it before. What do you think of this film? Do you think it's good? Like, do you think it's a classic and and deserves the title of being one of the best monster movies ever? Do you think it's overrated and isn't as good as everyone says it is, or do you think it's just somewhere in the middle and it's okay? Please leave your opinions down below if you like to, and subscribe for more content like this. This is going to be the entire summer special, so I'll be reviewing Godzilla movies as much as I can each weekend. I'll try to, at least. Whether I'll get through the whole franchise by the end of the summer, still not sure, but I'll try my very best to review every Godzilla movie I can. And if I don't finish it this summer special, I will save it for the next summer special. But anyways, thank you guys for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I will see you in the next summer special video where we will discuss the sequel to this movie, Godzilla Raids Again. Oh boy, is that going to be fun. Alright, well, see you guys. As always, peace out.